Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin Private Track Facebook group. What is it? It is October 14th, 2021. Members submit questions, other members upvote them. The most popular ones get answered live each week, so here we go. I've identified a few, the top three. I think I'll be able to get to all three. We all know that I get distracted every now and then, but if I don't get distracted, I think I can get to all three. Okay, let's do this. Here we go. Question number 1 from Kim A. I've been a member just under a year, and in reading the Garage Gym Experiment Q&A, I was surprised to learn that Linchpin started in 2014. I'd love to hear more of the history/evolution. Very cool. So, the backstory on that is the gentleman who runs that website, Garage Gym Experiment, they've got a tab on their website, I guess, that is like, hey, trying to find programming? Check out this tab. And so he's like, would you like to have Linchpin on there? Here's some questions to answer. So I answered those questions. Members submitted feedback. Thank you all for doing that. Super cool. And one of the questions was like, when did Linchpin start? 2014. So Kim basically said, didn't realize that happened. Can you speak a bit more about the history and evolution? So here we go. Kim, no worries. I'll try to keep it brief. So, yes, Linchpin started in 2014, and even prior to that, I've always just loved to program. Even when I first started getting involved in CrossFit, there's so many different facets of CrossFit, and that from being a coach to an athlete to a trainer to whatever it happens to be, that's just the niche that always resonated with me was programming. From the get-go, I always just geeked out on it. Started writing workouts for myself, for others, posting them, etc. to my personal Instagram because I didn't have CrossFit Linchpin back then, so I just went to Sherwood 215. What I was doing each day, etc., etc. And they just appeared to be well received. It's the easiest way I can say it. Workouts were well received, and posted the Monster Mashers as well. They were well received. And they must have been well received because they actually worked and people liked them, because it wasn't, most things that get traction on social media have some flash and pizzazz to them. I would just write whatever workout I did in dry erase marker on a whiteboard with the time and snap a photo of that. It's tough to have a more boring photo, quite frankly. So the fact that it got traction and even being such a boring social media post led me to believe they're being well received. People like these. So that was a good sign. Friends that knew I loved to program and would work out with me and things like that, or asked me to program workouts for them, said, hey, look, you love doing this. You're going to keep programming no matter what. This is back in like 2014. They said, why don't you affiliate your garage? Which is something you can totally do. And used to happen a lot more back in the old days of CrossFit. Now, it's not uncommon for people to just open the doors in a 5,000 square foot facility. But back in the day, like the roots of CrossFit, you could just affiliate your garage, make it a legit insurance, license, legal website affiliate, the whole 9 yards. And I was like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. I might as well do that. I'll affiliate my garage and, just see where it goes. Like, why not? I'm going to do these workouts anyway. Might as well have it, instead of coming from my personal account, I'll open an affiliate in my garage. And so I did that in 2014, and then just started posting the workouts under the CrossFit Linchpin banner. And I kept it kind of the same way that I did on my personal Instagram account, meaning CrossFit Linchpin, in my mind, I didn't care if it grew. That was an interesting thing. I didn't care if it was popular or not. Like, I knew what worked. I knew what good programming was. I knew what good workouts were. And I was just going to post that. And it would get traction or wouldn't get traction. But whether it did or not, it wasn't going to change what I did. I was going to do what I knew worked, and I was going to put that out there into the atmosphere. Let's see what happens. And, being a CrossFit nerd and geek, I said, CrossFit Linchpin will thrive or not based upon what we always said in CrossFit and at the level 1 seminars, etc., as what were the 3 tenets that you should use to evaluate a physical fitness program or many other things in life. And those 3 things were, you should check out the safety, the efficacy, and the efficiency of the program. Safety, efficacy, and efficiency. Safety is relatively obvious, right? If you have a pool of 100 people doing whatever it is that you're doing, and you check back in with them 6 months later, how many are continuing to march forward happy and healthy, and how many have been sidelined for any particular reason. That would be the safety of whatever it happens to be. Critical to evaluating a program. The efficacy of the program is the results. Does it actually work? Does it deliver what you say it's going to deliver? So we say we're going to deliver work capacity across broad time modal domains, aka fitness, improve your fitness. Well, the program should be safe, and it should be efficacious. It should do what it says it will do. And then the third part is the efficiency of the program. How long does it take to actually achieve these results that you say? And it's not a perfect example, but one of the examples we used to say is, if you're using these three tenets, safety, efficacy, and efficiency, and you have a pull-up program that you think is phenomenal, and you're like, look, it's an amazing pull-up program. You'll go from 0 pull-ups to 50 dead hang pull-ups, strict pull-ups, in 1 week. And you're like, wow, geez, that's amazing. We know what the efficacy is, right? We're saying the efficacy is you will get 50 strict pull-ups. That's the result. The efficiency is incredible. You're going to do that in 1 week. Wow. Now, what if the other shoe drops? They say, right, but to kind of do so much in 1 week, we're going to pile it on you. And so, regarding the safety, we've got about a 70% injury rate. Sorry about that, but the 30 people out of 100 that don't get dinged up, you're going to be amazing in 1 week's time. But yeah, we're going to sideline 70 people because most people just can't handle everything that we're going to throw at you. It's like, okay, well, love the efficacy of your program. 50 strict pull-ups, holy cow, see you in the Guinness Book of World Records. Love the efficiency of your program, right? 1 week, you got it. Don't like the safety of your program. So there's a blend of all three where we want a safe program that delivers honest results and does it in a reasonable timeline. And that, safety, efficacy, and efficiency, are some of the tenets also that I built CrossFit Linchpin on, based upon everything that I'd learned in my years with CrossFit. And I knew, again, Linchpin would live or die based upon largely the results, the efficacy, because we post 1 workout a day in black font on a gray background. Again, you want to talk about boring social media? CrossFit Linchpin owns the space of boring social media. We do not create flash. In a world of flashy social media, clickbait headlines, half-naked athletes in booty shorts, filmed at certain angles to get people. We do none of that. Literally zilch, zero, nothing. We just put out what I know works and works really well, and will treat your body well. And if you're consistent with the long game, you're going to have a fantastic journey of health and fitness. And so that's what we do. And it was going to, again, safety, efficacy, and efficiency. No flash. And it was going to live or die based upon that. And in telling the truth, which also isn't particularly well received at times. Again, not being offensive, not being mean, but just shooting people straight, about whatever it happens to be. I wanted Linchpin to be a place where the workouts revolved around safety, efficacy, and efficiency. There was no clickbait, no flash, no half-naked athletes. And then when we spoke about topics, such as in the AMA here, the most important thing was the truth and telling what worked. And that was going to be CrossFit Linchpin. And I was very happy to realize now, many years later, that apparently there was quite a appetite or desire for exactly this sort of a community process programming, because I mean, Linchpin has, I didn't know what the heck was going to happen with it, quite frankly, but it grew beyond, my wildest dreams, so it's pretty interesting. What else? Oh, and then the private track basically came about, wasn't, so creating CrossFit Linchpin was not my idea. Friends said that I should do it. And then the private track was not my idea either. I don't have any good ideas, sorry. I hang out with smart people. Because as I, posted these workouts every day, consistently, day after day for years and years, people would just post questions of like, oh, love this, what percentage should I use or modify this, or what would be a good scaled option for this, or I don't have a barbell, what should I do for dumbbells, or could you recommend a warm-up for this, or what should I do for some stretching, or do you have a goal time for this workout, or, is there a scaled option, is there a modified, you name it. And it takes a really, really long time to just create intelligently thought out, designed, well laid out programming. And then answering individual questions as they pop up on social media and typing on my phone with my thumbs to, paragraphs at a time. It's a profoundly inefficient use of time. Profoundly inefficient and ineffective, and doesn't reach a decent amount of people. And so kind of from that, the private track was born. I've been friends with the individuals at Beyond the Whiteboard for quite some time. And I was, talking to, one of the owners there, Mo, and, he basically said, look, you should create, people, there's this need and this desire and this want for all this additional information that complements the daily workout that you put out. You should package it and deliver it to people in a way that's easily digestible, pops right up in the phone. They've got all the answers to all the questions. They connect with each other. There's a community. Like, everything about that is better. Everything about that serves a wonderful purpose and need. Again, I surround myself with people smarter than I am. And I was like, well, that makes sense. And so then it was his idea to kind of start the private track. And we hosted it on Beyond the Whiteboard, because Beyond the Whiteboard's phenomenal, but it's the best platform out there. So that all lined up really, really well. And yeah, then the private track was kind of born. I'm not even quite sure how long the private track's been around. I want to say 3 years, maybe 4 years. I'm not exactly sure. So yeah, that was it. Kind of the community asked for it, and that's that's kind of the evolution. And I mean, the private track has evolved incredibly, and I'm going to probably do a video or a podcast in a couple of weeks, kind of encapsulating everything that it is now. Because when it first started, I think it was just a warm-up and the workout, and I don't even know if it was much more than that, and then it was just delivered to you on Beyond the Whiteboard. Then it's grown into all the various options and goal times and accessory works and cooldowns and videos and like all this stuff. But that wasn't how it started. It's evolved. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do kind of a where we are now kind of a deal, because starting November 1st, there's the wild card option, and the limited equipment crew is going to have goal times, and so the evolution continues, but it's come quite a long way. So hopefully that answers your question, Kim. Next question from Gabriella. Let's see. I think this one was up near the front. Yep, here it is. Okay. All right. She says, we all know how important the warm-up is, but what about the cool-down? Cool-down was in all caps. What are the consequences if you skip it? In those 10 to 15 minutes, I prefer to do accessory work. Is that a wrong approach? How important is the cooldown, and why? In the scientific literature, the current statement seems to be that it is just a placebo and doesn't really improve performance, recovery, etc. Fantastic question. So let's see where to start. Basically, we can encapsulate this as cooldown, fact, or fiction. And then, like she says, how should I use that 15 minutes? Should I use it for the accessory work, etc.? So I would encourage you, Gabriella, and everyone else, if you have not, check out Linchpin Conversations number 207 that we did, it was maybe within the last couple of weeks. Linchpin Conversations, number 207. It was from the Ask Me Anything on September 30th, 2021. And one of the topics covered on that, somebody asked a question about some other expert or strength and conditioning coach or whatever said, hey, training only 3 times a week, that's the way to do it. And if you're doing it more than that, you're not recovering. And, basically went down some different paths. A large part of that conversation, Linchpin Conversation number 207, was me not only discussing that, but discussing how it's a circular topic that has no end, and you can just cut and paste. Literally, what's happening right now, cut and paste. Training 3 times a week is good, and I've got a group of people that I can prove that with, and if you're doing something else, you're not optimizing your recovery. You could replace that with your favorite nutritional topic. I'm an expert in this field. You should eat this particular way. If you don't, it's not going well. Now defend yourself. I'm a scientific expert. I don't think recovery works. Now defend yourself. You could cut in. But here's the problem with that. And it takes no more than 5 minutes, as I said in Linchpin number 207, no more than 2 or 3 minutes on the internet to find. You can find almost any topic that you want, and then find both sides supported by some quote-unquote expert, somebody with letters after their name that has a PhD or a degree from some prestigious university, and it's backed up with some study, and you can find these exact counterpoints, well-documented, footnotes, the whole 9 yards, that say, I don't know, working out 3 times a week is optimal. Well, this person says 4 times a week is optimal. This person says high-rep Olympic lifting is bad. This person says that it's good. This person says you should squat below parallel, and they're a PhD. But this person's a PhD, they say you should not squat below parallel. This person says this about carbohydrates. I mean, it's literally circular. You can go on and on, cut and paste your favorite topic in there, and you will find some study and some person to back up your point of view or a different point of view, and you'll find somebody beautifully credentialed that sounds like you should listen to them. And again, that was a big part of it. I think I talked about that for like 30 minutes. And that Linchpin Conversation number 207, so I won't go down that path again. But the poor user like us is just left wondering, do I believe the expert? They're an expert, I'm not. They've got a scientific study. I don't have a scientific study, I'm just in my garage. What am I supposed to do? This is just one of the biggest disgraces of the fitness community and nutrition and a lot of other things as well. So many things. Again, I'm trying not to go down where I already went with 207, but I partially care that there's a scientific study that says that about recovery, and I partially don't, for all the reasons that I just listed right there, because you can go round and round and round. At the end of the day, here's what is important, and I certainly believe there's a place for experts in this world. I certainly believe there's a place for academia. I certainly believe there's a place for wonderful studies. I really do. But it's not always the right answer. I mean, you can find fantastic studies in peer-reviewed papers in the whole 9 yards that are true, and you can find the same ones that are false or wrong or misleading or omit things or don't tell kind of the whole truth or made sure that they wrote it in a way that supported the individuals who actually funded the study and that made them happy. So again, the user just surfing the internet, what are you supposed to believe? Which kind of gets back to one of the things I mentioned when I answered Kim's questions about what I wanted Linchpin to be. For better or worse, I want it to be a place where the truth lives. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it flies in the face of a quote-unquote scientific study, all I can do for you, and you always have my promise that I will do this, to the best of my ability, to all of my experience, interactions with other human beings, people that I've interviewed, my life dedicated to strength and conditioning and CrossFit and betterment on this topic and research that I've done, I will always shoot you straight. That's all I can promise you that I'll do. So on this topic, Gabriella, I would say one of the most important things to realize is that you are your own little laboratory and that you can experiment with. And I would encourage anyone to do this. So Do you think there's something to a cool down and recovery, or do you think there's not? We've got a scientific study that says that there's not. Again, I could bet you I could find you one that says that there is. And then that has to be contrasted with the overwhelming, I feel comfortable saying this, the overwhelming majority of athletes that I have interacted with and know personally, etc., generally say they have better experiences cooling down and recovering than not cooling down and recovering. So take that for what it's worth, even if it's in contrast to a scientific study. I would also say what's interesting and left out from the question is there's probably more than one way to cool down and recover and stretch, right? So did this scientific study look at one of the potentially 75 different ways, or did they look at all 75? Probably not. I'm sure they looked at one or two and concluded whatever they concluded. Are you just, if you had a squat heavy session, are you just walking around for 10 or 15 minutes doing a hamstring stretch and going home? Or are you walking or pedaling on the bike or rowing? Even something like rowing is nice because it's kind of got a little bit of a squat movement in there as well. Are you hopping off the rower every 1 or 2 minutes, doing 5 or 10 slow air squats to help kind of flush your system out a little bit, rowing again for 2 or 3 minutes, hopping off, doing 5 or 10 slow air squats? You're kind of mimicking the movement that you did in the workout, which a lot of people find very beneficial to feeling better the next day or two afterwards. So again, there's more than one way to work out to cool down as well. So there's a lot more nuance to anything than just kind of saying blanket statement, some study finds recovery doesn't work. And maybe it did. Maybe it did. But what's your personal experience? So I would encourage you, like I said, or anybody else, you're your own laboratory. If you want to, your choice, don't do any cool down, stretching, recovery, or nothing for 3 or 4 weeks. Keep notes, honest notes. See how you feel. See how you perform, the whole 9 yards. Then be very dedicated with your cool down, stretching, and recovery for 3 or 4 weeks. Keep notes. See how you feel. See how you perform. And then you probably have your personal answer as to whether or not you are somebody who does or does not benefit from recovery, stretching, those sort of protocols or whatnot. And then you should make your decision as to whether or not you want to spend that 15 minutes on recovery based on your real world data. Let's see. I took some notes so I could stay on course here. So let's say that you do feel better recovering, okay, and stretching. And so now you're in a bit of a pickle. Well, you've only got this 10 or 15 minutes. And now you've proven, at least in yourself, that you feel better and perform better when you do your recovery. Well, now you've got this 10 or 15 minutes. Do you spend it doing this recovery, which you now know treats you well, or do you do the accessory work? Again, that's your choice. If you're asking me, which I guess you kind of did, I would say in this situation that I just described, you would be better served, the majority of the time at least, spending it on recovery because you would have proven to yourself that you feel better and perform better doing that. Now, if your experimentation led to the other direction, that it was literally you couldn't tell a lick of difference, well, then that actually illuminates the answer for you as well. Might as well spend it doing some of the accessory work. I can tell you, and again, it might vary from the individual. I can tell you after as long as I have been working out, I can tell you as I stand here right now doing this AMA, my low back is tight and sore from the Randy workout yesterday. And it is more tight and more sore than it should be. And then I historically know that it should be because of all my experience and years working out and how many times I've done Randy. I know what it feels like. And I know that I'm more sore and stiff than I normally am as I stand here. And that's also because yesterday, my beautiful little baby girl, she did allow me to work out and actually warmed up, but she did not allow me to cool down and stretch and roll out my low back. And so that got blown off. And so the second that I finished Randy, I entered the home to take care of my daughter. And as I stand here, I can tell you unequivocally, I would not feel like this if I spent 10 or 15 minutes cooling down, stretching, and rolling out. I would still potentially be somewhat sore and stiff, but not as much as I am right now. I know that for a fact. So again, that flies directly in the contrast of a scientific study, I guess. Well, my 16 years of doing CrossFit and knowing how my body feels are much more important to me than whatever this particular scientific study happens to say. That's why I would highly recommend that you're your own laboratory and you go ahead and do some playing around with that. So, hopefully that was helpful. And again, go back, listen to Linchpin Conversation number 207 because it's a beautiful, wonderful, long rabbit hole that we go down on that kind of a topic. Okay, final question is from Eric J. Let me get the question right. Let me scroll down. This could be a show in and of itself, so I'm going to try not to make it into a show in and of itself. But the question is, a focus on CrossFit health. Would love to hear you break down the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum and how it relates to the CrossFit Linchpin lifestyle. So the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum is something we used to lecture about all the time at level 1 seminars when we would discuss what is CrossFit, what is fitness. It was wrapped up into all of that. So I'll give it in, I didn't realize I wrote down 2 pages on this. I'm telling you, I'm going to try not to get sidetracked. I'm going to try to give it to you in a nutshell instead of it being, a 45-minute lecture. So the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum was one of the many models of fitness. And the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum basically said that fitness was a hedge against sickness with wellness as an intermediary. Okay, that just went wherever somebody's head. We'll discuss it for a sec. So we have 3 terms. Fitness being the top of the pyramid, right? That's what we're shooting for, fitness. Wellness, kind of think of that as normalcy. That's in the middle. And then you have the bottom, what you don't want to be, sickness. So again, fitness at the top, wellness in the middle, sickness at the bottom. And the general, now this is a thought concept, okay? It's a thought experiment more than a pure mathematical thing. It's an idea that you can wrap your head around as to why we make some of the decisions that we make. And what we used to say is that you could pick, and there might be some debate, again, this is why it's a thought experiment. You could pick some markers which would be measurable for each of those things, sickness, wellness, and fitness, and assign them to those particular categories, for example. So we could say, okay, if you're normal, I'm going to just use America, since that's the country that I live in, you're the average American, normal healthy American, whatever that means these days, right? What is that body fat percentage? What is that blood pressure? What is that A1C? What is that resting heart rate? We could find those metrics, and maybe after some debate we could kind of agree on what the range should be for wellness, for normalcy, for middle of the road. Then we could measure them in athletes who have a level of fitness far above the average American. And so what would those same metrics, body fat, blood pressure, A1C, resting heart rate, be for fitness? And then what would they be at the bottom of the spectrum? What would they be for sickness as well? And you could compare and contrast them. And I think we could probably get to a decent agreement on what those markers could look like, because they're medical markers. Now, what might be a bit more open for discussion, but again, this is just a thought experiment, so just grasp the general concept, is we could also choose physical markers as well and assign them to fitness, wellness, and sickness. And what I mean by that is, again, these are just examples, but we agreed on these. Maybe we said, hey, a fit individual could back squat their body weight for 10 repetitions. That's a fit individual. Normal wellness is maybe somebody can do half their body weight for 5 or 10 repetitions. Again, whatever it happens to be. And then sick is, if you're sick and decrepit and lost your work capacity, Well, maybe you can't even go from a seated to a standing position, which is that's just a squat, without assistance. You can't get out of a chair, can't get off the couch. That's sick. So now, we could again assign physical markers. We could probably do this for a deadlift. We could do this for how fast can you cover 1 mile? Can you even cover 1 mile? And we could assign different numbers or times or loadings or reps for fitness, wellness, and sickness. So we could have physical tasks and then those health markers as well. Body fat, blood pressure, A1C, resting heart rate, other things. And so we could plot them on a spectrum from sickness to wellness to fitness. And if you picture it as a long line with sickness on one end, fitness all the way on the other, and wellness or normalcy in the middle, basically the oversimplification is that you obviously don't want to be sick, right? You don't want to not be able to go from a seated to a standing position and have a profoundly high body fat percentage and be incredibly hypertensive with your with your blood pressure, and have your A1C is somewhere over 7 and your resting heart rate's terrible, and nobody wants to be there, right? Our goal is to live our lives in the fitness area. Now, the fitness doesn't mean top 5% athlete in the world. It's just you're not in that middle section of normalcy either. You're pursuing long-term health and fitness. You're eating right. You're doing functional movements, getting in some intensity. You've got beautiful variance. You're squatting, you're deadlifting, you're running, you're trying to do pull-ups. Like, you're good. You're moving in that direction. Well, the goal is to live your life with all of your markers being in that fitness area. Because if something happens, living your life in fitness gives you the precious commodity of time. Okay? Time to figure out what went wrong. Kind of thinking of living your life with all of your markers in the fitness area, not in wellness, which is normalcy, and we certainly don't want them in sickness, it's like having a savings account, an emergency fund, right? Like a lot of people will say you should have 6 months living expenses sitting in an emergency fund just in case. And that emergency fund is just for that. If unfortunately something gets derailed in your life, something unforeseen happens, there's a hiccup, whatever it happens to be, you're not in an emergency situation right away. Because you have a 6-month emergency fund, you have that precious commodity of time. And time allows you to figure out what went wrong, try to find a solution to the problem, and then get the train back on the tracks. If you don't have an emergency fund and one thing goes wrong, that one thing, instead of being potentially a small issue, could just cause your life to go into chaos really, really fast. And that's kind of the same way where, if your body fat, and again, we didn't figure out what these markers would be, but let's say you're in the fitness category, and let's just say we said that a fit body fat percentage is going to be, 12%. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there. 12% body fat is fit. Well, you're not going to go to 35% body fat in a month's time. That's not going to happen. And if I don't know what the average in normal American is. Let's just say it's 20%. Okay, now we can have a different debate as to whether or not that's healthy, but let's just say that's the normal average American's 20%. Well, if fit is 12%, the average American is 20%, and obese is considered, let's say, 30% or more, well, before you go from fit to too heavy, you're going to have to pass through what's actually just considered normal. And what that allows you to do, once again, is figure out, okay, well, some of my health markers seem to be going in the wrong direction. Why is that? What's changed? Is something wrong? And then get it back on track. But the sad truth is that a lot of people don't even really live in what would be considered, used to be considered a normal healthy range. The new normal is probably what would have been considered unhealthy 20 years ago. And so now, if people are living with a borderline hypertensive blood pressure every day, and their resting heart rate's not that great, and they're carrying around too much extra weight, and they're largely sedentary, they're not eating well, and they don't move their body, well now, if something happens to that individual, they don't have a safety net. They don't have a cushion. They don't have time. And so the goal of the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum is that we want to have as many of our markers in the fitness area as possible to extend our work capacity across broad time modal domains, to keep us as fit, healthy, and strong, to live as high of a functional, high quality life as possible for as long as possible, both inside and outside of the gym. So that's kind of the overarching theme there. And I mentioned again, I just threw these out, that fitness meant you could back squat your body weight 10 times. Normalcy was half your body weight for 5 or 10 reps. Sickness was you can't go from a seated to a standing position. Well, shy of blowing out your knee or something like that, right? If you have the physical capacity to back squat your body weight 10 times, it's going to be a much longer road for you to get to the point that you can't even go from a seated to a standing position, compared to somebody that can barely back squat their body, or half their body weight, for like 1 or 2 reps. You have much longer of a runway. You've got much more money in the bank, so to speak, much more fitness in the bank. And that's what we want. Now, somebody could run with this in a direction which is actually not pursuing long-term health and fitness. They could maybe take that example that I just used of the back squat and be like, oh, okay, so I should pursue the biggest back squat possible, because given that example, I would then have the biggest margin available of, area under the curve of fitness, of work capacity, that it's going to take me a long time to get to that point where I can't get up and down out of the chair without assistance. So I'm going to pursue a 700-800 pound back squat, and that's my whole life now, is just that. Well, at a certain point, you're no longer pursuing well-rounded fitness, which in my opinion is the most advantageous strength and conditioning route to go when we're talking about sickness, wellness, fitness. And you could pursue a 700-800 pound back squat and do that at the expense of a whole bunch of other aspects of fitness. Because if you have an 800 pound back squat, I don't need to ask you what your 10K run time is. It's probably non-existent. And that's not a personal attack. That's just an observation of real life. Conversely, if you win the Boston Marathon, I know a lot about your back squat, or lack thereof. It's not 800 pounds, I can tell you that. So there are just some physical capacities that come at the cost of other physical capacities. So it's not as simple as, oh, well then I'm going to get, at the expense of all else, the biggest back squat possible. No. I would say, based upon everything that I have learned and experienced through CrossFit and interactions with all these people, and just, again, always trying to shoot you straight and give you the truth, the goal is to improve your fitness as much as possible. And as we all know, your fitness is not just your back squat, and it's not just your 10K run. It's that GPP, general physical preparedness, body weight movements, engine work, and barbell work, all happily moving forward together. And that's the goal. And to do it in a way, linking back to, I think, Kim's original question, that meets the tenets of safety, efficacy, and efficiency, so that we are happy and healthy in our shoulders, our back, our knees, and between the ears, quite frankly, for years to come. And we are moving the needle of our fitness in a gradual, incremental way that is sustainable. All of those things are steeped into what we do in Linchpin, why we do it, and how we do it. I see I see Kelly has commented on the video here that my numbers, since I didn't research the numbers, are again, they were just examples. They were just relative examples, are probably wildly off. She said 20%. Most Americans are over 30%, etc., etc. I'm very fit. Just had a pod test, and I'm 22%. Okay, so great. Exactly. So point being, don't focus so much on the exact figures. Like I said, they were just random things for thought experiments. But there would be a group of metrics that we could generally agree upon if we did some research, that you could say are generally associated with fit human beings, generally associated with whatever the wellness, the median, the normalcy group would be, and then generally associated with sickness. And our goal is to move as many of those markers as we can into the fitness category, because that's your savings account, that's your emergency fund, and that's what we do. So, okay, great questions, excellent questions, and let's end with a few Linchpin shoutouts. Got them called up today. So the first one, actually, I pulled off the Facebook page today, this morning, when I was doing my morning check, sipping my coffee. And it's from Joseph G., who had a bad day. And I picked this one out because I kind of feel it ties in very nicely to Eric's question about the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum, because in my mind, the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum means that you have a level of sophistication and nuanced understanding of the CrossFit methodology to understand that we are playing the long game, not the short game, and that no singular workout, no singular meal, and no singular day is indicative of your overall journey, that it's the long, you have to step back and take in the big picture, because we're all going to have good and bad days. So Joseph says, I'm struggling today. Here's what happened. Yesterday, after an amazing Randy, the hero workout Randy, I had put the plan in place to do Saturday's run at low intensity to recover before doing Fran on Friday. However, his baby is overly grumpy. Joseph, I hear you, brother. I hear you on the grumpy baby. Our baby is overly grumpy from what he usually is. My wife's meds are kicking in, so she's falling asleep and fast. My rhythm's off, it's telling me it's time to sleep. Thank God for Grandma, she came to the rescue, but I still got very much below average sleep. It was terrible sleep. So this morning, I go on a slow jog, which was the plan. Started to feel something shifting in my left foot. Thought it might be a blister. So after about a mile, I walked another kilometer in about 15 minutes. Here's what I know. I got movement in, even with terrible sleep and a grumpy baby, and definitely not quite recovered from hitting the Super Fitness Robot time on Randy. Joseph, I know you smashed Randy, by the way. Congratulations. Super Fitness Robot time on Randy, that's an incredible accomplishment. However, I'm still struggling with a mindset shift. In my head, today was not a good day in the gym. I've got a long day of FedEx deliveries ahead of me that I need to focus on, but I feel stuck in this morning. It's odd how someone can go from boom, Randy in sub 5, that's awesome, that's amazing, to today was not a good day, my whole day is shot. I'm trying, I'm usually a positive person, but today, it's not that kind of day for me. Fantastic post, honest post, a lot of truth, a lot of honesty, and a lot of people I think can resonate with that. Joseph crushed Randy yesterday, went sub 5, knocked it out of the park. I mean, fireworks. I'm awesome. Life's going amazing. Fitness is incredible. I love CrossFit. Next day, the run goes terribly. This sucks. I'm having a bad day. What a waste of a day. It's all for naught. We all have those highs and lows, but you have to step back and realize his fitness isn't either one of those just 2 days. It's not defined as just crushing Randy, nor is it defined as just having a bad run. It's highs and lows, and that's life. And again, we have to take a step back, realize how much consistency matters, that we will have highs, we will have lows, but stay the course. And now 5, 10 years later, you're right where you need to be with this sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. Life is good. You are crushing it. So we've all had these days, and Joseph's posted a lot before. Dude works for FedEx, busts his butt. I know that his day is going to be extremely hectic and filled with just moving heavy packages, odd objects, thousands of pounds all day long. That's tremendous. What hard work that is. Yet for some reason, because the run didn't go well, feels like the day is a waste. So can't let that get to you. Got to keep the big picture in mind. And Joseph, good on you for doing exactly what this community is for. Post about it in the private Facebook group, and there was a tremendous outpouring of good, supportive messages. And that's what we're supposed to be, again, right? Because life is a team sport. It's not an individual sport. Okay, 2 more. Next one, got to celebrate this from Daryl H. This was on the workout maybe about a week ago. That was I think it's 4 sets of 3 power clean, 4 sets of 2 front squat, and then 4 singles on the squat clean. So he PR'd his 3 rep power clean, PR'd his 2 rep front squat, and PR'd his squat clean. Had a tremendous day in the gym. And not only got individual PRs in all 3 of those lifts, but on each set, the 4 triples of the power clean, the 4 doubles of the front squat, and the 4 singles, there was more weight on the bar on every single one of those lifts. So not only did he get individual PRs in all 3 movements, but then at the end of it, when you input that into be on the whiteboard, it tells you over the course of the entire workout how much more, same, or less weight did you move overall compared to last time that we did this workout. He had one heck of a day. So he overall, compared to last time, when you added up all the lifts, moved 440 kilograms more than the last time he did this workout. That's so preposterous and ridiculous that I have to do my simple American math to see. 440 pounds would be ridiculous, but it's kilograms, so times 2.2, 968 more pounds. 968 more pounds lifted overall in the workout. Holy cow. Nice work, Daryl. Final one from Jenny W. Jenny's fantastic. I know I owe Jenny an email. So Jenny says, I was inspired by Olivia's snow pick this morning. Wintertime is coming. I've been focusing on my training, nutrition. Living in the boonies, there isn't much else to do. I've been scaling the scaled workouts, having some issues with soreness on my right leg. Deadlifts are a great way for me to loosen up. And then she posted a photo. She says, this is a pic of my brand new foot/leg that I took possession of back in April. So she has a prosthetic limb. And she took a photo of her prosthetic foot. This is a photo of my brand new foot/leg that I took possession of back in April. And it looks very worn down. Let me just say this. And she says, yep, I've blown through that shell already. And nobody was happier to see this than my prosthesis, whoever the medical professional that does that, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. In my world, that means you are doing well. So how cool is that? We literally have a Linchpin member that is doing so well in the workouts and getting in so much fitness that they're wearing out their prosthetic foot and have to change it out faster than normal. I think that's one of the coolest things in the whole world. So, Jenny, that's awesome. You're awesome. And that concludes the Ask Me Anything. So, again, thanks everybody for the phenomenal questions. Keep them coming and enjoy your rest day, and we will talk later.